Shruthi, here we are. Could you imagine in Hollywood?
Not at all, and thank you so much for including me in this project and for making me look so great on the film. That was not me, that was all you and the editing team, so thank you.
Well,
It's an honor.
I have to say the same, and thanks for including me because, especially representing, the other gender and being here to shine the light on so many beautiful, talented women as they perform and lift their voice, and to do those interviews with you guys, too, to fill in the blanks. We had someone in the audience, too, even reference that, how the music amplified the voice amplified the music. Tell me what you thought when you heard that.
Do you know the interesting thing is that in seeing it on the big screen, I actually appreciated the music more. Specifically, I've been attending some of the other screenings at the film festival, and what you realize, we know this, but everything is in service of the story in film. So film music is also at the service of the story. But this film does not have a separate score. You had to actually make use of the live music that you'd recorded to build the score of this. You didn't have a separate composer scoring the film, which is very difficult, I'm sure, as an editor, because you're probably used to having cues or other things you can use to signal to the audience what they should feel. So this film is in service of the music, which is very rare.
It's true. It was a great fun. It was almost multiple music videos, each one their own moment, because they had to hold true to what you were talking about, what you, especially as composer, coming to the table and saying, this is what I want people to hear, this is what I am striving to be heard on this stage and now in the film. So,
Yes, yeah.
so has it been heard?
Well, like I said, you've made it sound even greater than I could have imagined. But truly the coherence of what you've stitched together, not only in, as you say, all these musical vignettes to make them something that's united, but then also to find the threads that are common in our unique stories. So, for example, in my story, I talked about the fact that I had my mother as a role model, a female role model. And so I grew up imagining that there was no barriers for me in a way. But then to contrast that with Essen's story about not seeing that role model in where she grew up in Turkey, but deciding she's going to be that role model for other people, you found those connections in our kind of different stories. So you're able to bring the multiplicity of our perspectives into the single thread. So it's just fantastic. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure again. And to hear you touched on that story, she had to go to athletes. I love that. She had to look outside of her chosen profession, but still found those champions that could motivate her and tell her to keep pushing for that finish line. It's in sight.
Yes.
So I think that's so important, especially for us as artists. And you and I talked about this even in the interview, some of which made it to the film, some of course is for the DVD extras, is that sensibility that lonely position of the composer, of the writer, of the editor that sits in that room by themselves, or is it more of a communal thread,
Yes.
even when you're working by yourself in a silo?
And I think it's the latter, because I think that there's a collapse of time and space in a way when you're working in this way. You're communing with people past and present and future when you're creating work like this. And in my case, I always have the voices of my teachers with me. So my first teacher is my mother and continues to be my biggest inspiration. But all of the teachers I've had throughout my conservatory training or other spaces I've been in, they are there guiding me and showing me. And when I don't have answers, I turn to my collaborators, right? So everything we do is as a team. There isn't this single individual who's running the show. So I think that is something that you have also highlighted in this film, because it is about all these women coming together, supported by the allies. The allies are the ones who make it possible for us to do this kind of work. So we're really, really grateful to all of you and to the entire team of Global Women in Music that wants to uplift women in this way.
I love the nuances, and we found this in the editing room, of the little thank yous at the end, right? And you have that beautiful moment, mother-daughter, but also raga master to musician, composer coming into her own, and then even the exchange of thank you and gratitude with Amy as conductor. We showed it on film. Bring us into that sensibility, because oftentimes you don't get to walk out on the stage and have that moment.
Yes, I mean, if we have a bow, it's often from the audience, so we're not on the stage as well. It's kind of the idea is usually that the music speaks for itself. So to bring us on stage and then give us the chance to interact with the people on the stage in that way is so beautiful. I had a chance to thank the concertmaster as well, who's the reason why this orchestra can sound so, united in this way. But Amy brings so much wisdom, such a wealth of wisdom, and so much experience with her, especially because she's used to putting together shows very quickly. from her background in film music. And so that was something that we really benefited from because we all got together in New York for just 2 days. So I did really appreciate the expertise that she brought to make sure that this was put together right away. And with my mother, it's more years and years of expertise that I'm bowing down to and thanking her for bringing to the project.
And the piece that you actually presented there, you so eloquently say in the film, this is paraphrasing, of course, but really making space even for this new female identifying energy, not just traditional female in gender, but also this new wave of acceptance or non-acceptance in some cases of a female leaning energy, which I think as artists we all have to live in anyway, but you so beautifully spoke of how the particular piece that you wrote gets to that. Give us just a tease on that.
Yes, I would love to share, because it was poignant for me to watch this. This was filmed and created in 2024. Now, speaking in 2025, we are in a different cultural moment, especially here in the U.S. So I felt very empowered revisiting the story of this. So the piece, Freely Mohini, is about traditional mythology. Ancient mythology that shows a god who is presented as probably he, him pronouns, has to take the guise, the form of a woman in order to win the war, in order to rather achieve the aims of the particular situation. And so this is an interesting idea because it also makes us wonder, as you were just saying, we all have different energies in us. And what do we allow ourselves to express? And this is part of, we've discussed this before, like masculinity and all the different shades of masculinity. And sometimes masculinity is only allowed to be one form and the vulnerability is forced to be suppressed. And so there are so many things we can learn from each other. But what I find really interesting is, as you say, we are in a new cultural moment in the present. But in some ways, this is an ancient mythology talking about gender fluidity, which is also something I think that we as women, I believe we have the capacity to accept, be more inclusive in that way. So that's what I'm asking my fellow sisters to be inclusive in that way.
Well, I'll also equally invite my fellow brothers as well, and reaching out across the aisle and working together, because that's what this film, I think, so beautifully articulates. So thank you for being so much of the music of this film and so much of the energy in explaining the narrative, not only there, but here again today at the La Femme Film Festival here in Los Angeles.
Thank you. And namaste.
Namaste, especially on today.
Yes.